is an interview by Roland Matthies for the Clark County Historical Society of Mr. Harry Turner, longtime resident of Clark County. And this is part of our ongoing review of the business history of Clark County. I have asked Mr. Turner to give whatever information he'd like out of all the way back as far as he would like to go, with the understanding that this will be then transcribed in typewritten form and will be resubmitted to him for his editing before it becomes a permanent part of the archives of the Clark County Historical Society. Now, Mr. Turner, will you elucidate from your interesting life?
It's been quite interesting to me, and I've enjoyed it very much. But I don't know that it's unusual, and I don't know that it is of importance to others, perhaps. But I came to town about 1920, I think, in that neighborhood, and worked at various positions, and just to a young lady who later became my wife.
Here in Clark County?
In Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Violet Zimmerman. Her father was Fred Zimmerman. I don't know whether you knew him or not.
I knew Charles B. A different family.
This family came from
Not
from talking about my wife.
Yes, yes.
Her father was Fred Zimmerman, who was in the life insurance business in town.
Mm-hmm.
And after I came to town, I'd worked at several places around 2 or 3 months, and then I'd quit and forget about it, and changed to something else. But anyway, I had several dates with this young lady, and who later became my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And as we became more involved and so forth, he suggested that I go into the insurance business because I would work 2 or 3 months someplace and then quit and forget about it for a month or so. So he introduced me to an agent here in town, and I went to work for them. And it was very different from me.
About what year was this?
This would be about 1923,
mm-hmm.
I would say. And
that's back when Springfield was quite a big industrial town.
And so I went to work for this agency and did reasonably well. It was rather difficult in those days to get into it, but I stuck with it until I, had done quite well. The problem was that the agent whom I was working for ceased to do as much as he should have.
Goofed off?
And he was, I think, living off of me rather than much of it, I would say altogether, but something like that. And so I came in once I had a draw each week, and we settled up at the end of the year. My draw was $50 per week, which was pretty good money then.
I'll say.
And at the end of the year, we'd settle up. And this particular day, I went in on Saturday, and he gave me my money, a check for it. He says, "I can't afford to pay you anymore," and I said, "Well, I'm going to quit." So I went to Clinton, and the very next week, and made connections with a couple of companies, and went over to Ray Gallagher. I don't know whether you knew him.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He was up in the old M&M building.
Old M&M.
On the Main Street side.
Yeah.
And I had done business with him before, and I told him my situation and said, I want someone who would answer the phone for me, and I want a desk, when there's enough I need them. and we agreed on the price and so forth. So I started out there for myself, and I think probably I was there maybe a year or two, and finally moved over into the old First National Bank building.
That was about what time? What year?
My guess would be probably, I don't remember now, it's been so long.
You were strictly on your own?
I was on my own, had been from the time I went with Ray.
And you were representing what companies?
I can't tell you the companies now, but we had many different companies then, still do, for things, but had more then than they do now.
It was entirely general insurance?
Well, they would have, one company would sell fire, fire and lightning and windstorm and so forth. Another would sell casualty covers. Another would sell bonds and so forth. So what I did was connect with different companies.
Did you sell any life insurance?
No, I didn't sell any life insurance.
I see.
As I say, my father-in-law, at that time, who was my father-in-law, was in the life insurance business, and so everything was referred to him.
Mm-hmm.
So we were there for a number of years, and I probably there about a year, and then I bought the agency from which I worked, J.S. Page and Company.
E.S. Page?
J.S.
J.S. Page. P-A-G-E?
P-A-G-E.
Uh-huh. Never heard of it.
Well, that's been many years ago that this happened. He had a fairly good sized agency, but he got so that he didn't work very much, and he was living off of my
Another one, huh?
whatever. I don't know what's living off of, did he care? But anyway, we bought the agency. And later on, we bought another small agency or two.
Now, when you speak of we, who's that?
Our agency, well, I was principal.
That's
I
you.
was it. It was me.
Yeah. Was your wife in the business with you?
No, never. She was a teacher.
Was that so?
Yeah.
Where?
In the public schools till we were married, and then after that, she subbed a little, but she didn't like it at all. And I'm trying to think of the doctor now. Lived on, had his office up on East High Street, right across from the Catholic church. He was our physician.
Uh-huh.
And his youngest was going into Ridgewood. And he also was the physician for the president of the board of Ridgewood School. And he called my wife, had her come in, and he asked her if she would teach there, if he could arrange for her to, be hired. She didn't ask him how much they paid, nothing. She just was sure she loved to teach, and would only teach one thing, first grade.
Oh, good.
So,
where did she get her education?
In public schools,
Springfield
High School, and I think she had a couple schools, years of normal school, but I'm not sure. But she just loved to teach and was apparently quite capable and competent at that. And so she taught there in Ridgewood School for several years until our first child came in.
When was your first child born?
About 10 years after we were married, so that would be
way back.
33 or 4, something like that.
Been married how long?
10 years. We didn't think we were going to have, and then all of a sudden we do have.
A son?
We were fortunate.
A son or a daughter?
2 daughters.
2 daughters.
And I say my wife loved that, and she made a game out of everything. The kids loved it, but couldn't do enough.
Yeah.
And they called us to ask how come they don't have school on Thanksgiving or other days like that.
Is that right?
Yeah. They had while she was over there, they had a spelling bee with the 5th grade. First grade had a spelling bee with the 5th grade at the end of the year. Never lost to him. He just loved to do it. It was not all fun. I said, personally, she didn't make enough to send her over there. I mean, it cost more to send her there than they didn't have the money, and so but she just loved to teach.
Where was it located? In the building there in Ridgewood?
On the corner, right there at Harding Road and the little corner in there.
Yes, that's where it started.
Yeah. I don't know where it started, but that's what she taught.
And Reese Tullis had something to do with that, didn't he?
I'm not sure. Somebody, the person who was president of the board lived over on Home Road, right back of us. I'm trying to think of his name now, but anyway, he was.
Kissel had something to do with that.
Oh, I'm sure he did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the doctor. I'm trying to think of his name now. It's been so long since I forget it. But he used to have an office there, right next door to what was the post office, right across from.
Yeah, I know who you mean, and I can't think of the name either.
Well, he lived on the corner of in a rather large home on the corner of that school that road that ran right into Ridgewood School.
Yeah.
And came out just this side, just the other side of Mercy Hospital. There's a little, turn down there. He lived in there.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, he was very good to us, always took care of us very good shape. So, and she loved to teach, so that's just the way it's done.
So back to the insurance business. You gradually acquired one or two other agencies.
Yes, from time to time acquired other. But I always worked 5 days a week, as many hours as I could see people. Very seldom home before 9 o'clock. And but I enjoyed it, and she was willing to put up with it. But always on Saturday and Sunday, we were together. Period.
Mm-hmm. That was unusual in those days.
Yes, but that's the way we worked it. And,
yeah.
So finally, we bought Wallace and Company. They had some problems, with health after Fred Wallace died. There was one situation after another that.
You remember a character by the name of Charlie Bray?
Yeah.
He was a good old friend of mine.
He didn't do anything for that agency, though.
That's all.
He pulled out for himself, at one point.
Yeah.
And went for himself and took some of, at least tried to take all of it. I mean, he got some of it.
And there was another man there.
And that was not illegal, but it was
unethical. Walter Backus, yeah.
He followed him.
Yeah.
See, one after the other told her that was going in the wrong direction.
Uh-huh.
So I knew some of the people up there fairly well, and so we got together and bought the agency at that time and combined them.
Uh-huh.
And then we moved over across the way here to where there used to be a flower shop.
Yes.
Well, there is one now.
Yes.
Was before.
Yeah.
Now. And we were in there for a number of years.
John Field has been with you for a long time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, his father, before him, was with me.
Oh?
His father was a field man for one of the large Eastern companies. In fact, he was field man for a couple of them, frankly. But each time he would make a change, I would go with him because he was a very capable insurance man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but I know in discussing it with him, I was talking to him about, I was going to bring somebody in. I asked his opinion of whether or not felt we could get along. And kind of looked at me as if, what next? And finally he said, did you consider me? And I said, well, no. His name was Chester. I don't know if you knew him or not.
No.
Chetfield. He said, did you consider me? And I said, well, no, you've only been there 3 months or whatever it was. 3 years. It was a very short period of time. I just figured you would not be making a change. And he said, but I would.
Mm-hmm.
We shook hands on it. We didn't talk money. Never talked money.
Mm-hmm. Do it in those days.
Well, it's a different type of people.
Sure. Yeah.
You can't, in those days you couldn't do that with everyone.
No, but we had moral standards that you could evaluate.
But when you deal with a person over a number of years,
you
find out how they think and how they operate and so forth.
Right.
And we never Chet was, up until the time he passed away, was my associate, period. Simple as that. We never had words.
Now his name again?
Chester.
Last name?
Field.
Chester?
John's father.
Just, I wanted to get it on the record real clear.
John's father.
Uh-huh. And now you have a
that's
third generation.
That's how.
Peter's here.
Yeah, that's how John came into the AIDS, but because of this.
And when did the son come in, Peter? Just recently?
Just gradually, just in the last several years.
Uh-huh.
But they, as I say, with one nice family and so forth, no problem. We never had problems.
Mm-hmm. As you look back on your beginnings in Clark County in the general insurance business, can you name some of the competitors so that we get them into the record as to...
Well, you had Corey and Company, which was a rather large agency. And at that time, I think they were in the old M&M building.
Mm-hmm. Who was the principal there?
I can't.
Okay.
I can't. J.S. Elliott, of course. You know Elliott and Company.
Yes.
Ollie Elliott, you knew him probably. And he was up the next square up in the old Mitchell building. I think it was on where the bank is now.
Yeah.
And
was Pettigrew much of a...
No.
Wasn't a large operation?
Well, they were real estate primarily.
Don Johnson?
Don Johnson was not in it.
Was not?
No. Don Johnson was a field man. Called on me. When I, in the early years, later bought an agency and, went into it.
I live out at Oakwood now, and Don's out there, and I get to see him every day. He's
I didn't know that he was out there.
He has to use a cane. He gets around.
Yeah. But he called on me he was working for one of the fire insurance companies, and in the early years he called on me, and finally, bought this small agency. It was not a very large agency, and developed it from there.
What did Volney Trout do? Was he in insurance?
Not to an extent. He was primarily real estate.
I got to know him early here. I came to Wittenberg in March of '43. He was on the board of Wittenberg at that time. Clarence Corwin?
He was in life insurance.
Yeah, he was in life. Yeah.
He was an ex-teacher.
Yes.
Ex-teacher.
Now, when did you become involved with Cincinnati Life?
Well,
a good long time ago.
I mean, it's not Cincinnati Life. Cincinnati Insurance Company, we started about seemed to me like it was 1940.
It is not in the life business at all.
Well, we do have a life company now and have had for a number of years, but primarily, basically, we started with a fire insurance company.
And it's always been based in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, yeah.
And when did you become involved? A long time ago?
I was the first president.
You were the first. About when?
When it started, I don't know, was it 40, 41, 2, I'm not sure, just, it was in the early 40s.
Before the war or after, would you say?
I'd say
it was probably about 1940.
I'd say it's 40, 41, or someplace in that general area. I don't know that I have anything here to indicate what year it was formed. But, you can check that very closely.
Can you tell me what got you started at that?
Well, the person that started it, the idea started was John Schiff. John's father was a field man for a number of years. And Jack Schiff, or John Schiff, wife's father was a field man. In other words, he traveled for a fire insurance company. Made all the agents, private produced business. when Jack's wife's father retired, Field was selected to take his place. And he worked for them about three and a quarter years. Very capable and always straight. Ask him a question, tell you, didn't pass it on. So when he went with a new company, came to me, asked me to take him on and produce business for him, which we did.
But you're still in Springfield?
I always have been my insurance agent in Springfield.
Uh-huh.
So we simply added another company because we had a capable person who would do things which, were worthwhile and which would do them right, be sure that it was done right.
Now, was this Jack Schiff a local man?
No.
He was Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
That's S-C-H?
His wife was the daughter of the previous field man.
Uh-huh.
And he apparently went into the insurance business because of that connection. I gather. I don't know this. I would assume that.
How do you spell his last name?
S-C-H-I-F-F.
Uh-huh. Fine. Okay. He came to you and developed a relationship with you, and you started to give him business. And then that worked.
Yeah, not Schiff, but
his successor.
no.
No?
Chet Field.
Chet Field.
I was simply telling
Yeah.
Chet Field took Mary Schiff's father's place
Okay.
as a field man.
All right.
And when he did that, he wanted to appoint good agents, or what we would call good agents,
Well, of course.
which they didn't to produce, so he'd have an increase in volume.
Yeah.
He came to me and asked me, to take them on, and knowing him, what he had done before in his previous connection, I took them on.
Uh-huh.
I didn't discard the other. I simply added another company and would produce business for them.
Okay.
So about some 3 years later, 3.5 or whatnot, I was thinking of bringing someone into my agency. And in choosing them, I felt that I wanted to check backgrounds and, other, not references, but I mean as to character and so forth. I certainly didn't want anyone that I didn't feel I could get along with. And John's father, who was in the field at that time, was one which I had a very high opinion of his opinions, and so we were having lunch down at Ardsley. I don't know,
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And during this luncheon, I said to Chet, so-and-so, the field man. And he said, yes. I think he and I could get along together. It's almost like it's thrown a curtain there. He didn't answer. He just stared at me. Finally he asked, why do you ask? And I said, well, I'm figuring on adding someone, and I want to be damn sure that I can depend on them, that they're straight, that, all the rest. I said, really? No, you've only been there 3 years. He said, but I would. We shook hands. Never signed anything. Never said how much to pay. Nothing. He did his job and came to the East.
That was in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Was he?
And with a first-class insurance agent, couldn't be any better.
He was younger than you.
Somewhat, not a lot.
Uh-huh. But he's dead considerably.
For a number of years.
For a number of years.
Yeah. But he was the key to the success of the Cincinnati Insurance Company as well.
Is that so?
Oh, yeah.
The major production for the Cincinnati Insurance?
Well, the thing is, he knew what it was all about. He came up through the ranks. Jack Schiff didn't know a damn thing about the insurance business. I knew about the same. We knew how to sell.
Yeah.
We knew what the product was. But there's more to it than, just having the product. You have to develop, you have a lot of, background
Sure.
that must be in place, and such as reinsurance and all the rest that goes with it. So,
So Mr. Field was your man.
yeah,
Yeah.
he came into the AC, and that's when, it wasn't too long after that Jack Schiff came up with the idea of forming a company. And he came to us to get our opinion,
Oh.
primarily because of Mr. Schiff.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Mr. Field.
Field,
Mm-hmm.
because he knew that he had a world of experience. He had dealt with him for a number of those 3 years, and so it was just a connection that was only natural. So that's where we got together, and finally we decided we could do it, provided we did certain things. And he led us through much of it, because he was familiar with that background. We knew something about selling it, but company-wise we didn't have it. He had had that experience in New York and so forth.
Oh, I see.
He's not a native. He was not a native of this country. Of this state. He came out of the East.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he came to Ohio because he represented the company in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And he traveled for them. And then when this other company wanted to, bring him aboard, he did the same thing for them. Only they just paid him more money. That's all.
And you became the first president of Cincinnati
Uh-huh.
Insurance.
And then
And
I was the first chairman.
Was
When
Jack Schiff involved in that after you became president?
Oh, yeah.
Was he?
Yeah. He was vice president or something, I'm not sure. Maybe secretary of treasury, I'm not sure, but he had a title
Uh-huh.
and was running that end of it, the basic end of it. But Chet and I would go down a couple times a month to check everything out. We didn't do much business, as you probably know. Well, we did less than 100,000 the first year or the second year.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't very much. But Chet had been through that experience in the East and knew how to handle it, and made it much easier for us because he set the routines, and all he had to do was see that it happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was nice to find somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, as I say, a lot of it's coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been involved had it been for Chet,
Mm-hmm.
because the connection between Chet and Jack Schiff and his wife Mary. Jack's wife's father was a field man, and that's the reason I think he got in insurance business. I don't know this, but I know that there's a connection there.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled just like Chet did for another company,
Mm-hmm.
and Chet transferred to take on that responsibility when Mary Schiff's father retired. And they paid him to make the change. It's simple as that. And if there's enough money, you're going to do it.
And it just grew and grew from there.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's been a marvelous company.
about $1 billion last year.
Billion, is that right? That remarkable. In these
We didn't do 100,000 either year of the first 2 years.
either year.
Mhm.
How do you generally sell in a big company like that now? Throughout the United States or regionally?
Well, primarily, we are somewhat selective. We are entered in all the states, but and we have some agents in all the states, but we restrict what we will write in some states. The rates are either inadequate or the states are just terrible experience-wise or whatever. And there's in no way that we can fight that battle. That's for the other company that's already in there. Let them, if they want to lose money, that's fine.
You stay out of the tornado states?
Well, it wouldn't be a tornado. You can anticipate that, and rates usually will take care of it, but you have other factors involved.
Do you find Ohio a healthy climate?
Yes, very much.
We have good...
Everybody wants to be in Ohio.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Is this because of good regulations?
part of it has to be regulation. Part of it's just the makeup, you know.
Good atmosphere. Mhm. And yet we're not noted as being a prime industrial state, are we?
Well, you are an industrial state. You're not probably the pinnacle, but Ohio's a pretty substantial industrial state.
Mm-hmm.
You find a lot of the major companies in this country have areas of work in Ohio.
What county in Ohio would you say is your prime sales area for Cincinnati?
I don't know that because I don't see the figures anymore. I used to have my fingertips, but
I suppose Columbus.
but no, Cincinnati would be one primary because the ship agency just throws everything there, and they have other agencies as well. Take us on because they want to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a local, company, and their people want to be in this local company, so they take us on in order to satisfy that need. And we say, if you're going to do that, you're going to give us some other and so forth, the same old thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say probably this Columbus, Springfield, Dayton, this western part of Ohio probably is as good as you find any place.
In your long experience, have you found that there was a time when the morals of the insurance business were at a low ebb, the ethics? Or do you think today's probably a low spot?
Well, we find exceptions to all rules.
Sure.
There are times when you find in any one of the areas a letdown of ethics and so forth. Now, certain areas you can't do business. It's just tough as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that is in northeastern Ohio.
Youngstown's the worst, I think. Yeah. I think of, what's that big outfit that owns our mall?
Oh.
Yeah. DeBartolo or DeBartolo.
Mm-hmm. There's just certain an atmosphere apparently in that area where anything goes.
Take you to the cleaners.
I don't mean all.
Yeah.
Broad scale, but I mean generally.
Yeah.
You can't do business in Youngstown and expect to make a profit.
Mm-hmm. Not terrible. Yeah.
Just eat you up. In other words, you get somebody that's going to take you. Fix it up so that you had to pay.
As you look back on your Chamber of Commerce experience here in Springfield, just as an example, who do you think some of the outstanding men were in your career who contributed the most to Clark County's welfare? I think to me, one of the obvious persons was Harris Miller.
Yes.
I thought he was a tremendous citizen.
Very much so.
In the current day, I think of Dick Kuss, of course. I think he's an admirable citizen. And of course, his father-in-law before him,
yes.
Paul Deere.
Deere.
Yeah. But before that, I know your recollector gets a little hazy at times, but so does mine.
I did not know many of these people. People personally. You gathered a certain amount of it because you're out in the field. But I never had any political or social or
Oh, he didn't. I see.
Ambitions. I wasn't interested. I was interested in building a business. And
you've not held any political office?
No. Mm-hmm. Never wanted any.
No. Fine.
Never wanted any, no way. So as I say, I work 5 days a week.
I think that's so interesting that you knocked off for Saturday back in the day when everybody worked on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, we worked till noon.
Yeah.
But my family...
Your family came in then. Your daughters are where now?
have one that's in Britain.
Britain.
Cheltenham, you know where that is. It's about 90 miles north of London.
Uh-huh.
It's 30, 40 miles from Oxford.
She's there permanently?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She married a
Britisher?
Yeah. Well, no. Married a, I don't think what the hell his nationality was, but I mean, he was a Phi Beta Kappa, educated type thing. She was that type. She could read when she was, when she could talk.
What was her name?
Judith.
Judith. And where'd she attend college?
She attended Wittenberg a year or two. She went to Ohio State, and you name it. And she's still going to college. She's taking a course that has been right along.
Good for her.
She's only 50-odd years old.
Yeah, that's great.
She'll never be finished, if you know what I mean.
I know. I love that kind of person.
I said, you're supposed to, there are other things to this besides.
Yeah, you got to make a living too. Does she have children?
Yes, she has 4 and 1 adopted.
Uh-huh.
Her sister had 2 daughters. Sister has 5, and so when the 5th one came, I think the first one, the oldest one, she wanted to be equal to her sister, so I think she adopted one. But I don't know this, but that's all I know.
Where does she live, the other sister?
Lives here in
Springfield.
But lives just out east of town.
And what's her married name?
Landis.
Landis.
She married Lawrence Landis.
Well, you've had a great life. Now I wonder.
Except I lost my wife. That's all I know.
How long ago?
About 5-6 years ago. So.
It's no fun being alone.
No.
Living at Oakwood, we have 130 apartments, and there are 19 men.
I go to church right there in front of me.
I wanted to ask you about that next. I wanted to ask about your involvement in the religious community of Springfield, because I know you've been involved. And, well, some of your ideas about, do you like what you see? You certainly have invested financially.
I like some of the things that I see, but I'm not satisfied with the growth and promotion and so forth of religious ethics and so forth. But that's just my opinion. As much I don't know, that's for sure, and I tell myself that many times. You think you know everything, but you soon learn that you don't know everything, and in fact, how little you do know.
You have been a member of that denomination?
Yes.
For your life?
We were members of that church, the Disciples of Christ.
That's Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Atlanta. And so when we came here, we attended the church here. I grew up in it and still do. My wife was raised a Baptist.
Uh-huh.
And she attended the Baptist church. In fact, several years after we were married, I left her off there and went to the other church and picked her up after church. Mm-hmm. And finally, after the kids came and so forth, she decided to come, to the. In fact, the first one, I think she took her to the Baptist church. And the second one came when she decided, well, maybe we'd best just get together. And so we've been with the Disciple Church since that time. And not as aggressive as they might be, but then that's everybody to his own.
It's a beautiful church.
Yes.
Just lovely. Adds a great deal there to our area. Yeah. And I want to say
I borrowed that land before. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No. With that in
30-odd
mind?
acres. There was about 30 acres in there.
Yes. Before the country club?
I bought it all, and then after we got started and finally cut out, I'm going to need so much, so we just said, I'll take so much, and that's it. The rest of it was sold. And I think it was sold to some section of the Mercy Hospital, somebody from over there. Now, I'm not sure who the recipient was.
The Oakwood part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a part of the Mercy Medical
That's what it says. The
system.
Mercy Hospital arranged the purchase of it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody from there.
Mm-hmm.
I got it kind of second hand or third hand, but anyway, we had title to it.
Mm-hmm.
I had title to it personally, and I gave title to the church there. It's about 6 acres, I think, that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry now I didn't take a little more frontage, but that's too late too.
What are the plans for widening the road, you know?
I don't really know.
I don't either.
Mm-hmm. You have a red light over here, if that means anything.
That means we're in business. See, we can say anything we want to because this will get typed up and then you'll get to edit it any way you want to do it. There's an interesting phase for a man of your caliber that I'd like to hear you say a few things about. First of all, your judgment of this community. Is it really getting together north and south? Or are we always going to be split in this community? It's a hard question to answer, I know.
I think we're going in the wrong direction on it. I think it's going to be black and white.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Well, don't you see more and more of it coming in,
Yes.
We lived in the South for many, many years.
Yeah.
South End. And my wife, she was born on, well, I think she was born there, but anyway, she was raised on Catherine Street there, just off of Limestone. And when we came to town, my parents bought a house out on South Fountain, a double. Lived one side, rented the other. And, we just all South Enders.
Mm-hmm.
That
was near your church there too, wasn't it?
Yes, it wasn't too far from the church. That was not, as far as I know, was not a consideration, really. At that time, the church was over on Mulberry Street. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
Near Yellow Springs.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Oh.
When we came to town, that's where it was.
Mm-hmm.
About a half a square off of Yellow Spring Street on the south side of Mulberry.
Is it still there?
I can't tell you. It's been, I don't know when I've been by there.
Mm-hmm.
But they moved up, they built this other building, bought a lot there, actually a couple of lots, and built that. They should have bought the 3, but they didn't. They bought 2, and we later had to buy the 3rd one.
Mm-hmm.
And built the church there.
Mm-hmm. You feel that the community education system, how do you evaluate the mess we were in for a while with that Board of Education problem? Do you think we're out of it?
I don't know. I was never very involved,
Uh-huh.
and you hate to make statements about something that you know very little about, that you only read about.
Yeah.
I would be, I don't think I would want to, get
How-
into that area because it was strictly
How do you
an
feel
opinion.
about the symphony, the arts center, the arts council, and so on? Do you think we're doing a good job?
I think we're doing a reasonably good job. I think we have a lot to go.
The Historical Society worries me. It's we've got so much storage in that old memorial hall that is just it's terrible. Mm-hmm. It's not taking proper care of what we have. We have more artifacts in this Historical Society than any other one in the state of Ohio.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Just remarkable.
Well, I would think somebody could promote a facility to, see that it's maintained.
Yes.
Of course, temporarily, it's not a bad place, but something's going to happen to that facility, as you know.
There's no heat.
Yeah.
They have
Nothing.
They have some electric heaters in it.
Yeah, they have electric, and that's about all they have in it.
Yeah.
That's being used.
And the county pays the salary of the head of the professional.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We just haven't done a good job of fundraising at all. And I just got on the board about a year ago, and we've changed leadership. Jim Kenny is the new president of our board.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you know him or not. He's
I can't place him.
another good Irishman like Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to take hold with some vigor. But I've been so proud of our symphony. I was a charter member of it back in '43.
Is that right? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're doing a good job. As you know, I have tried to help them in bringing in guest artists, which which is helpful.
Oh, you bet. A sellout is a good thing to be proud of.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that somebody has to subsidize because it's not going to happen any other way.
No.
And
how did this fellow Greg Anthus get into this? He seems to be a man that has probably some private income of his outside of what he gets.
Well, he was a real estate operator in Columbus, you know.
No, I didn't know a thing about him. I like him.
Yeah. He's a promoter, of course.
Yeah.
Which is, normal.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was a promoter all my life.
And he, we got together. We talked about it early on, and I gave him some money to promote a certain, bring in a certain artist. And then since that time, it increased it somewhat, as you know, probably. And so I think.